Welcome back to the channel, 40k fans, to another battle report by Battleforged Brothers. And today on this lush green planet, you will be watching two armies fight against each other, which will be High Fleet Gorgoroth has returned. Potentials of the hive mind are stretching out, and they are taking on a foe that is used to fighting Tyranids in the worst circumstance possible. It is none other than Craftworld Iyanden. They have certainly felt the teeth and claws of the Tyranids against them, and they will be prepared today. So we are playing the Dawn of War deployment. So across here we have my deployment, which is measured by the green dice, and this is where High Fleet Gorgoroth will be deploying. And with the Eldar dice over there, very fitting, the Fire Dragon aspect dice will be Craftworld Iyanden's deployment zone. Mission that we're playing today is retrieval. We have 4 objectives, and as you can see by the compound in the centre there, that is objective 4. You can see boxes and barrels. There's been some kind of Imperial presence here, but no more. Ammo crates dotting around. Objective 3 on the outskirts here as well. Small little outpost. We also have across this side, just in this little ravine, objective 1, and just across the far end behind the forests is objective 2. So it's 3 points per objective, and basically whoever holds the most objectives at the end of the game will be the winner. Normal rules apply as well, such as the line breaker, first blood, and of course slay the warlord. At the moment, obviously we haven't rolled for deployment, so what we're going to do is we're going to do as 8th will. So we'll take turns in deploying, and then of course whoever finishes last will have a +1 on their Cs. But apart from that, let's go and have a look at the armies. Right, so this is High Fleet Gorgoroth today. Couple of new adaptations to the High Fleet. So just before we run through the lists, I did finish the deployment, so I will be going first, and Graham will attempt to seize. But first of all, because of the colours as well, I thought it would be only fitting that I would use Behemoth adaptation, closest resemblance to my force. So that will allow us to reroll any failed charges. So Warlord today is the Broodlord, new tasty Broodlord there. Powers that he has chose the Horror. So that'll be a -1 to hit if he gets that off. Of course he has Smite as well. Just in front of him he has 10 Termagants. There is 3 Tyranid warriors, just with Death Spitters aside from Talons. We have the Exocrine. We have a Hive Tyrant with 2 sets of 2 Brainleech Worms Devourers with wings. Just tucking behind the rock is the Malanthrope. We have another squad of Termagants just down this side. We also have across this side the Winged Beasts. So we have Gargoyles and of course the Hive Crone. And moving across this side, so we have 3 squads altogether of Termagants. So there's another squad at the on the right hand side in the second. We have a Screamer Killer Carnifex, who upgrades for him is he has been given the Spore Cysts. Just behind him is the Hive Guard, just with the Impaler Cannons, another Hive Tyrant Wings, and exactly the same configuration. Powers that these have both got as well, just for Psychics for them too, is the Horror and Psychic Scream. And we have another squad just round here of Termagants as well. So we are running a battalion detachment and a patrol detachment. So the patrol detachment consists of the Tyranid warriors there and the Malanthrope. The rest is all battalion. So that will give us 6 command points altogether for being Battleforged. Just in reserve, we also have a Trigon Prime and with Toxin Sacks, and we also have 10 Gene Stealers with Rending Claws and Siphon Talons that will be coming up through his tunnel. So that is 2,000 points. Well, actually a little bit shorter than 2,000 in total. The point size for that force, obviously including all of our upgrades and everything like that, is 1,909 points altogether. And that is High Fleet Gorgoroth today. So let's go and have a look at Craftworld Iyanden. Alright, okay, so this is Craftworld Iyanden today that will be meeting head to head with High Fleet Gorgoroth. So it's 1,920 points altogether. So it is a super heavy auxiliary detachment between the Wraith Knight and Outrider detachment as well. So that is 4 command points in total for Graham. So the Warlord today is the avatar of Cain himself. Very fitting for these guys as well. Graham, of course, is using the new Codex rules as well. So all of the anything that has a bracket basically is double that. So this Wraith Knight is not going to be losing any ability for his move or his ballistic skill as he goes down. Doesn't give him double wounds, but it just means that he's more reliable on less wounds as well. And of course, he can only ever lose 1 if he fails morale, which is very nice for them. So moving across, we have the Farseer here, squad of 4 bikes. All the bikes, jet bikes, are scatter bikes. And the powers that the Farseer has is Guide and Doom. Obviously the avatar of Cain just there. We have the Wraith Knight. Any weapons on the top, Graham, or is he just equipped with the sword?
He's got the what you say is what you get.
Right, okay, so he does have the Star Cannon and Scatter Laser on the top. We have a unit of Wraith Blades with the swords. 3 Night Spinners behind them. And we also have another Wraith Guard squad here. They are equipped with the scythes. Right, any upgrades for the vehicles at all there?
The crystal
targeting matrix. And of course, just on that side, we also have another squad of jet bikes there as well. Just double checking across the board as well. They are actually the cannons. Sorry, just double checking with that. So obviously, because High Fleet Gorgoroth have finished deploying first, we will get to go first, unless Graham can seize on a 5+.
5.
On a 5, he does seize. So it looks as though that Iyanden are ready to go toe-to-toe with Tyranids today. So let's come back after their first turn. Right, okay, so as the avatar sends his commands through to the rest of the force, Iyanden have marched on. As you can see, the Wraith Knight has come stomping straight across, just on top of the barricades here, looking straight down at the forces of Gorgoroth. The jet bikes just coming around the outpost here, followed by the undead souls of their previous brethren, encased in the Wraithbone there, the Wraith Guard. At the back lines, holding steady with the Night Spinners. The Wraith Guard just coming along here, the Wraith Blade, sorry, as well as the Avatar himself. A squad of bikes just coming around this ravine, round this way. You can just imagine them swooping with the engines, just making a hard left turn round there as well. Another jet bike squad there, and another jet bike squad there, and the Farseer just lurking in the background to support with psychic powers. So speaking of psychic powers, we will come back after psychic and shooting for Iyanden on their turn 1. Right, so we are just back after the psychic and shooting phase for Eldar on their turn 1. You can definitely tell that these are used to fighting Nids, they're well prepared, It's been a bit of a brutal round against the Tyranids. So, first of all, Psychic. This squad was cast guide by the Farseer and doomed the Tyranids termagants down here, and obviously they are no more. They were shot by this squad and this squad to finish them off, so that gave Iyanden first blood. This squad over here shot up at the Hive Tyrant. We failed 2 of our saves, causing 2 wounds, so reducing us down there. Across this side, we've lost 2 of the warriors. That came from firepower from 2 of the Night Spinners. And the other Night Spinner shot down at these gaunts and reduced them down to 3. So that also, a little bit of help came in from the Wraith Knight firing his Star Cannon and Scatter Layers with them as well. So lost, not too devastating, to be honest. I mean, the warriors maybes, but, you know, we're just starting to lose our numbers a little bit here. Very brutal with the craftiness of Craftworld Iyanden. Sneaking that first turn has obviously dented our forces. But we'll have a look and see. Graham has no charges to set off, not in charge range. So we will come back after the movement for Gorgoroth on their turn 1. Right, okay, so in response to being shot at by Iyanden, High Fleet Gorgoroth has initiated their move. So just after the movement phase, the lone Tyranid warrior is just shifted up alongside with the gaunts. These have just advanced 2 inches for the gaunts, 1 inch for the warrior. The Malanthrope's advanced 8 from round here, just to support in regards to its spore cloud. Broodlord's moved up. The Exocrine's staying still. These gaunts have just moved up alongside with the gargoyles. And the Hive Crones came swooping across this side here. Looking to get some shots and potential assaults over that side. Just across here, the Screamer Colour Carnifex has just come rampaging through here. More than likely looking to get some shots with its Bioplasma and potential charge that way as well. Just backed up by the Hive Guard. The 2 flying Hive Tyrants, obviously this Hive Tyrant is just dropped right in the middle of these, just to see what it can get into contact with there. And the other one, as you can see, just facing off against the Wraith Knight. And at the end, the Trigon Prime has just popped up in its tunnel, 9.5 inches away from enemy units. And the Gene Stealers have popped up as well with them, just within 3 inches there, just crammed up there and more than 9 inches away from this squad here. So at the end of the movement phase, that's everything all done. So we're going to do our Psychic phase. There's a couple of Psychic powers that we'd like to get off, and then we'll go straight into shooting. So we'll be back after shooting. Right, okay, so the Hive Mind has responded. So in Psychic phase, we've cast the Horror on this unit here. That was from the Broodlord, just down here. We've also cast the Horror from that one, from this Hive Tyrant, onto that Night Spinner down there. We did also cast Psychic Scream as well onto the Wraith Knight, and dropped them by 3 wounds, 3 mortal wounds there. Across this side, this Hive Tyrant also tried to cast Psychic Scream, but he failed. In shooting, however, he has reduced this unit down to 2, so they will have to do morale in the morale phase. Shooting, however, Hive Guard didn't perform very well at all, missed pretty much every single one of their shots. Bioplasma Scream from the Screamer Killer killed 1 of their number for the Wind Riders there. Across this side, these obviously advanced, shooting from the Hive Tyrant across into the Wraith Guard, didn't do anything. Same with the Hive Chrome, and some random Flesh Borer shots from the Gargoyles as well. So not great there. Start of this round, however, was of course the Exocrine. Decided to use a Pathogenous Slime stratagem, which increases the damage from 2 on this particular weapon to 3, so it's +1 for damage. And obviously because I haven't moved, I've stayed stationary so I can fire twice. So I have reduced the Wraith Knight down from 24 wounds down to 9. So he's limping along, but with him being Iyanden, he effectively doubles his wound for his bracket. So because the damage bracket, he's not affected with anything yet, but he still has 9 wounds for the purposes of his remaining. So apart from that, we've got a couple of charges to set off. So we'll get them resolved Overwatch as well, and we'll come back with the combats. So we'll be back in a moment. Alright, okay, so we're just back after end of turn 1 for Tyranids. So just combat wise, we failed to get in with the Carnifex, but Graham failed to do any Overwatch damage there. We got in with the Hive Tyrant across this side. We took out one of the Wind Riders, so he's just down to 1. So obviously morale there. No damage dealt back. Did get a hit, however, but no wound. Across this side, the Hive Crone dished out 1 wound on the Wraithguard, and the Wraithguard didn't do any damage back. The Gene Staters made it in. They did take 2 hits on Overwatch, but no wounds. But as you can see, totally wiped out that unit there. Used the Rending Claws, and they've just consolidated 3 inches. And of course, the Trigon Prime, absolute meaty monster that he is, dished out, I think it was 11 wounds, so that's reduced down to 1 wound over there, and no damage in return. So that's all of the combat's done, everything all resolved. So that is Tyranids turn 1, all completed. So as it stands at the moment, however, obviously the Eldar are in the lead, not including any points that they're actually currently sat on, of course. So we'll pass back over to Eldar. So we'll be back after their movement phase on their turn 2. Right, so just back after movement for Eldar on their turn 2's movement. So the Wraith Knight has regained, Graham did use a stratagem, Tease Visha, and he has regained 3 wounds back, so he's up to 12. He's just hopped down, looks as though he's going to be trying to get into combat, either with the Hive Tyrants, or depending on what happens in shooting, maybe he's press on, maybe he's potentially towards the front lines here. The Avatar's on its way as well, like a scene from the old Rights of War game. Looks as though maybe the Hive Tyrant and the Avatar's going to go toe to toe. Wraithblade's slowly behind. The Night Scythe that was the Night Scythe. We're not playing Necrons. The Night Spinner has just came out of combat there, with him being the fly keyword. It'd be absolutely fine. And of course, just with under here, the Wraithguard have fell back, but they can still shoot as well with their implacable advanced rule. Across this side, it's moving across. Looks as though these guys are all going to be converging to shoot at the Hive Tyrant there. So that's all movement and everything all done. So we'll come back after Psychic and Shooting for Craftworld Iyanden on their turn 2. Right, so just back after Psychic and Shooting for the Eldar on their turn 2. Psychic phase, non-eventful, pretty much because the Shadow and the Warp were just cut. Graham's rolls were quite low. The Smite, tried to Smite, rolled a 5, but -1, not getting that off, and tried to Doom, and didn't roll high enough anyway without the -1. Shooting, a lot of firepower coming in. As you can see, the Hive Crone has been obliterated, and that was from the Wraithguard, obviously dropping back and shooting and killed him straight away. Dealt 14 wounds, so just dead straight away. Sucked into the Warp, or ripped apart by the Rift. A lot of firepower coming in from the 3 Night Spinners into the Trigon Prime, bringing him down to 7 wounds. So he's still kicking around over there, but he took a lot of firepower away from the rest of the force. The Wraith Knight shooting a couple of shots, as well as the Avatar, into this Hive Tyrant here, bringing him down to 9 wounds. And apart from that, that's all of the shooting done. So we will just get, there's 2 charges to set off, and that will be the Wraith Knight and the Avatar, and they will both be going into the Hive Tyrant down here. Okay, so we'll get Overwatch resolved, and of course the charges as well. So we'll continue on at the combat phase, so we'll be back in a moment. Right, okay, so combat, we're just in the middle of the combat phase. Just for Overwatch, we did manage to pump out a lot of shots actually. We got 5 hits on the Wraith Knight, did no damage, And we also got 5 hits on the Avatar and did out 2 wounds. So Avatar is currently down to 5 wounds. As you can see, they both made it in. So we're just going to film the Avatar's attacks first. He's going to strike in at the Hive Tyrant. So rolling the attacks on camera there. So Avatar of Cain, he gets 6 attacks, I believe.
5.
5 attacks, yeah.
5 attacks, hitting on 2s.
Okie doke. So these are the aspect dice as well here. So that's 4 hits. And wounded on 3s, so strength 6. Okay, so that is 3 wounds. With the Wailing Doom,
-4.
that is -4. So we have 4 invuns to make for our psychic barrier. So we'll just roll them. Okay, so we bypass 2 of them. The 2 of them do still go through. And what is the damage on them? I believe it'll be D6 for the Wailing Doom, is it?
It is D6, but I've got to roll 2 dice and take the highest.
Ah, right, okay. Okay, so for the first one,
So the first one,
rolling 2 dice. Okay, so
5.
there's 5. And for the second one, there's 5. Yep, he is dead. So he is dead. We will see if he does his death throws. So on a roll of a 6, he will lash out. No, he does not. So that's everything all killed. That's him dead. Unfortunately, the Wraith Knights, his attacks have gone away. But they will, of course, be able to consolidate their standard 3 inches. So that's the end of the combat phase. So we'll remove him off. And we will go on to... we won't need to do morale. Everything's in synapse range that needs to be. So we'll continue on. We'll come back after movement for Tyranids on their turn 2. Right, okay, so we're just back after movement for Tyranids on their turn 2. So the Mananthropes just shifted up a little bit. Exocrine is just staying stationary. Broodlord has just shifted up. The 3 Termagants, they're just performing a bit of a meat shield there, as well as the Lone Warrior, just to perform synapse there as well. But of course the Broodlord's there. The Screamer Killer, he's just come along this way as well, just to maybe he's joined into this combat over here. Well, to get into combat anyway. The Hive Guard have stayed stationary this turn. The wounded Hive Tyrant on this side, he's just flew across that way. Maybe he's looked to see if he can get some shots against the Farseer. Across this side, Gene Stealer's got an amazing roll on their advance. They moved up 13 inches. Look as though they're going to try and get into combat at the Wraith Guard there. And the Trigon Prime, he's just moving closer just to go after his target as well. And the Gargoyles, they just moved their normal. They haven't advanced. The Termagants advanced, but they only got a 1. So they are all moved up there. So we'll come back after Psychic and Shooting. Hopefully we can get some shenanigans off here. Hopefully we can dish out some wounds on some big targets such as the Avatar and the Wraith Knight. So we'll be back after Psychic and Shooting for Tyranids on their turn 2. Right, so we are just back after Psychic and Shooting, although I totally forgot about my Psychic. So bad move on my half. However, Shooting, just over here we dropped one of the Wraith Guard and put one onto 1 wound. That was from the Hive Guard, who remained stationary over here. We dropped the Farseer down to 2 wounds. That was firepower from the Hive Tyrant over that side. Just a couple of pot shots into the Wraith Knight, but the Exocrine did use Pathogentic Slime stratagem. So we do currently just have 1 command point left, and we've brought the Wraith Knight down to 3 wounds. So that is everything all shot that we can. And of course we do have some combats to set off. So we're going to try and get the Gene Stealers into the Wraith Guard. The Trigon Prime back into its original target of the Night Spinner. We are going to get the Broodlord. I think we're going to put the Broodlord into the Wraith Knight and potentially the Screamer Killer as well. We'll see what happens. We might end up seeing if we can get the Broodlord into combat with the Avatar. We'll have to have a look and see what we can do. But we'll get Overwatch resolved and declare the charges as well. So we'll be back in a moment. Right, okay, so we are just back after the end of Tyranid turn 2. Quite a long combat phase as well. So as you can see, the Wraith Knight is no more. So it came down to the Broodlord, managed to smash him apart with his rending claws, and they consolidated 3 inches, obviously within an inch of the Avatar, so they are back into combat there. So the Avatar, if he wants, will be able to leave combat. Over this side, Gene Stealers managed to take out one of the Wraith Guard. Wraith Guard punched one of the Gene Stealers apart in return. And as you can see, the Night Spinner is gone. That was from the Trigon Prime, and he's just consolidated 3 inches into combat there. The reason we've done that is because we know that the Wraithguard can leave anywhere and still fire, but it doesn't really matter what we were going to do, we'd still be sitting ducks anyway, so just thought might as well give it a little bit, make Graham kind of go the way we want him to go. And over this side, combat for the Hive Tyrant, no damage done either way there. So that is end of Tyranids on their turn 2. We did use our final command point for a reroll for one of the Rending Claws down here, and that was what gave us the kill for one of them Wraithguard. So that's everything all done for ourselves, so we'll go back on to Eldar for their turn 3. Okay, so just back after the movement for Eldar on their turn 3, and as you can see, the Avatar's staying where he is in combat. The Wraithblades have moved up, more than likely looking to get in combat with the Gene Stealers, and the Wraithguard have retreated, more than likely get some shots at them, or potentially the Trigon Prime. The 2 Night Spinners just staying where they are. Just across this side, the Farsi is obviously just backing away, and the jet bikes are coming in to help them out, more than likely to shoot into the Hive Tyrant there. So that's all of the movement done. No stratagems currently used in Graham's movement phase. He does still have 3 command points left as well. Just to mention as well, we have put a smoke marker there, but the tank and the Wraith Knight did not explode, so we're absolutely fine that side. So we'll come back after a quick psychic and shooting phase for Eldar on their turn 3. Right, so just back after psychic and shooting, so just a very quick psychic, just did some mortal wounds onto the Hive Tyrant, reducing down to 3, and then the rest of the 3 wounds which killed him came from combined fire from these 3 separate scatterbike units, so he was took out there. A very good job from the Wind Riders. And the Gene Stealer unit has been took out as well. That was combined firepower from both of the Night Spinners. Did take both of them to do it, but did do it. In regards to the Wraith Cannons from the Wraithguard, unfortunate, did get 2 wounds, but rolled a double 1 for the wounds. So that Trigon Prime will have to be dealt with by combat. So speaking of combat, obviously we have the ongoing combat from the Avatar down here, and over this side, do you have any charges to set off, Graham? More than likely the Wraithblades?
Wraithblades can get in, yeah.
Okie doke, so we will get Overwatch with the biostatic containment spines. We'll just roll to see. I know it's a little bit out of order. We normally do, obviously Overwatch is supposed to be first, but just want to see what roll that Graham gets. Okay, so that's not enough to get in. So it fails to charge, and we will still get our containment spines. You want to charge the Wraithguard in as well?
No.
No. Okay, so just Overwatch to do, and then the ongoing combat down here. So we'll be back after combat has been resolved. Right, so just after combat, after resolving Overwatch, no damage done. As you can see, the Wraithblades tore apart the Trigon Prime. He did get death throws actually, and dealt 1 wound back in his mortal wounds. Just across this side, the Avatar did kill the Carnifex, but in an absolutely ecstatic, outstanding performance from the Broodlord. He managed to get 5 wounds on the Avatar, 4 of them being 6s. Now, with the, I also rolled for the Yamago factor, so he got +1 strength, and for the Warlord trait, he's got Monstrous Hunger. So every time I get a 6, it is +1 for the damage. So that's 4 damage each time, and there's just too many wounds to come through. Unfortunately, Graham did only have 2 command points left as well, because he could have done the Avatar Resurgent, but unfortunately wasn't being able to bring him back. So the Avatar crumbles down into his molten body, and he will resurface once again. Take some time to regrow back. So apart from that, that is Iyanden's turn 3 all done and dusted. So we're just going to go into Hive Fleet Gorgoroth's turn 3 movement. So we'll be back in a moment. Right, so just back after movement for Tyranids on their turn 3. So we've dropped back with the lonely Tyranid warrior just to perform, so they can give synapse to these 2. The Hive Guard and the Exocrine have stayed stationary, looking to get as many shots as possible into the back lines of the Eldar. Broodlord, he's just moved up as well. These Gaunts have advanced. The Malanthrope has advanced. And the Gargoyles, they've just moved their normal 12 inches across, just to perform a bit of a screen across this way of winged beasts. The Termagants, they've advanced as well. They got an 8, so 8-inch total. And nothing else to report for that. So as we look across, we've dished out a lot of damage to each other, to be honest, and I'm quite surprised. I'm very impressed with the way that Tyranids have performed against Eldar, that do get a bit of a bad rep, saying that they're quite a high performing army, which to be fair they are, and I did not expect to do this well against Iyanden of all the Craftworlds, so I'm quite impressed. But we'll move on. We'll do Psychic. I'll not forget it this time, although I've only got one Psychic left. But we'll come back after Psychic and Shooting for Tyranids on their turn 3. Right, so just back after Psychic and Shooting, Psychic phase, we cast the Horror from the Broodlord onto the far back Knight Spinner, and we got it off, so he's -1 to hit and leadership. Shooting wise, didn't do a great deal, managed to take out one of the Wraith Blades and dropped one onto 1 wound. That came from firepower from the star of the show, to be honest, the Exocrine. Didn't have any command points to give him Pathogentic Slime again, so just doing 2 damage apiece. Failing with some hit wounds on from the Hive Guard. They performed mediocre this particular game. Their place in the army might be questioned because they've been performing a little bit underwhelming lately. But apart from that, that is Psychic and Shooting all done. And I am not going to set any charges off. Bit strange, but we're just going to see exactly where we are. So we will come back after Eldar on their turn 4. Right, so just back after movement for Craftworld Iyanden on their turn 4. So the Wraith Blades are looking as though they're going to get ready to gear up to go into combat with these, supported by the Wraith Guard as well. These two have just adjusted ever so slightly. The Farseer and one of the bike squads has just come onto objective 1 over here. There's a lonely bike guy just here looking as though he's going to try and get line breaker in these trees. And these two are just sat on objective 2 just round the corner that way. So that's all the movement done. Not a great deal left to move for both armies, to be honest. Apart from that, we'll just go into quick Psychic and Shooting for Eldar on their turn 4. Right, okay, so just back after Psychic and Shooting for Eldar. Just Psychic dealt out Smite and killed one of the Hive Guard, failed to guide, but firepower coming in from the 2 scatter lasers reduced one of them down to 1 wound. Still in Synapse, so fine for morale, not that they'd be able to break it anyway. Just over this side, a lot of firepower coming in from the 2 Knight sites. Obviously the one that's reduced together with its friend took out the Termagant squad here. So apart from that, that's everything all done. Just a couple of assaults to set off. So that is the Wraith Guard and the Wraith Blades into the Gargoyle unit. So we will get Overwatch, and then Graham will obviously roll his charge distance as well. So we'll come back once combat has been resolved, back at the end of turn 4 for Craftworld Eldar. Right, so just back after the combat phase for Eldar, and as you can see, Gargoyles totally wiped out by the Wraith Blades. They perform really good at this edition. They just consolidated. Obviously, the Wraith Guard have just moved up just within range of the objective there, and the Wraith Blades just a little bit shy away from it, but they're just lurking behind there. So apart from that, we'll just go into Tyranids on their turn 4. Just looking at the time frame, potentially the final turn, so we'll come back after Tyranids movement on their turn 4. Right, so just after movement phase, we are being a bit sneaky and doing everything that we can. So what we've done is we've kept stationary with our star player, still within Synapse. Obviously we've just moved forward a little bit just to provide Synapse there, covered that way by the Malanthrope. Malanthrope's just advanced 1 inch, so he's just moved across that way. The Termagant's just shifting up as well. Big advance move, obviously moved a full 12 inches with the Broodlord just to get within 3 inches of this. Across this side, the Hive Guard, they've just shifted up just 1 inch away from these guys, looking to get some shots in there. And apart from that, that's everything all moved because we don't have a great deal left. Iyanden have been punishing us this particular game. So do a very quick Psychic phase and we'll go into Shooting. and we'll see what happens after that. So we'll be back after shooting. Right, okay, so just back after psychic and shooting, and also the end of the game, just to do with time constraints as well. So what we've done in psychic, obviously the Broodlord, he tried to cast Smite and failed. Shooting, the star of the show, he has performed absolutely brilliantly in this game. Shot across this way and took out the last guy, Wind Rider down there, to deny Linebreaker. In regards to points, at the end of the game, we haven't done any assaults or anything like that. Over this side, obviously, these are both contesting, because none of them are troops, so they're both within 3 inches and they both have the same exact number of models. Over that side, obviously Graham's got that one, so that's 3 for the Eldar there, and 1 for First Blood. Tyranids got Slay the Warlord for killing the Avatar, and nobody's got Linebreaker, but we have 3 points there. That puts us on 4, and 3 points here, because with us being troops, the extensions of the Hive Mind ability, with these not being troops, we trump the Eldar on that. So that puts us on 7 to the Eldar's 4. We did have to double check, because I did personally think that the Eldar had this. And to be fair, I really do think that there should be some kind of, I don't know whether it be a formation or a detachment, but just to fit the fluff, I think that Wraithguard should be troops. But it's not in the Codex, so unfortunately that's the way that we're playing it. So at the end of that, obviously it is a Tyranid victory. Quite impressed with them. Like I said, there's a couple of units that underperformed, a couple of units that did really, really well. Eldar was difficult to come up against. I think if it went on to turn 5, I believe that it potentially been a wipeout. But just to do with time constraints, it is a Tyranid victory. So thanks very much for watching today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this battle report. If you just want to see more, check out the channel. Please subscribe. It does really help us out as well. And click on the bell button so you don't miss an upload. And thanks very much for watching. And until next time, happy wargaming.